Hey, this is Jennifer Medwick, and I'm going to be sharing the results of my teacher interview here, as well as some thoughts of my own. My partnership teacher is Adriana Poveromo, a third grade teacher at Forest Hills Elementary. And the first question I asked her is, can you describe your beliefs about teaching social studies with young learners? She said she believes that it is crucial to teach social studies at a young age. Students are able to become more culturally aware of the world around them, and I feel that they learn some vital information about being a citizen in society. By teaching social studies to young learners, we are able to instill and cultivate a knowledge and deeper understanding of being a member of society and how society functions. I love that explanation by her. I've always thought that in school we are teaching more than facts and information, but we're teaching kids how to be people. Someday they're going to be grown-up people, and we need to teach them to be citizens. And I think social studies has a very important part of that. So I totally 100% agree with that assessment from Ms. Poveromo. The second question I asked her is, what resources do you find the most helpful in planning and teaching social studies? She says when she's planning for a social studies lesson, she first looks at North Carolina's essential standards for grade level, which again is third grade. I prefer to look at the unpacked standards in order to get a deeper understanding of what the student must know and be able to do in order to have mastered and understood the standard. I also agree with this. We learned last semester in Dr. Crawford's class that unpacking the standards is a great first step toward lesson planning. First figure out what it is that students need to walk away knowing and then build from there. So I totally agree with this setup. For question 3, I asked her, what is your favorite thing to teach in social studies and why? And she says she enjoys teaching geography to students through the use of global studies curriculum. She says we are able to learn about Africa through our geography standards, and students were able to apply the geographical terms to Africa, and they were able to learn more about a country that they may never have learned about before. I do agree with this assessment that geography is important. I think geography is a great first or early introduction into social studies, because without first showing kids their place in the world, it's hard for them to really understand where other places and things have happened. So I like that geography is one of her initial tools. But I find it interesting that she says she enjoys teaching geography, and I was working with the kids on a small group lesson last week, and they could not point to North Carolina on a map. So while they may know a lot about Africa and places in Africa, they don't even know where they live. So I think we need to first define where they live before we start defining where other people live. Question 4, I asked, what challenges do you face as a classroom teacher in social studies planning and teaching? The challenges that we seem to face in our classroom is timing. There's so much to teach in social studies, and so many good conversations and content can be taught. They've been struggling with time since third grade is heavy year for testing. She has to try to integrate a lot of social studies curriculum and standards into ELA and math. For instance, they read books about important historical events and be able to compare and contrast them. Then they can take it into math and create a timeline to show the important events in a country or state. I agree that timing is an issue. I see how much these kids are drilled in their ELA and math. So I do understand that timing is an issue, and I totally agree with that, especially for third grade. I think for myself that what I anticipate being one of the bigger challenges is relating things from a different place and a different time to the here and now. Kids oftentimes have a hard time imagining what life is like outside of their own little bubble of home. So I think that is one of the bigger challenges I will face as a classroom teacher. And finally, question 5, I asked her for some advice for me about teaching social studies. And she said to find a way to engage students. It can be difficult to make social studies a fun and interesting concept, but the way is to present it, the students can make all of the difference. We live in such a visual world that using different images and media can help students instantly become engaged in the content you are teaching. Another piece of advice I would give is to know the content you are teaching, which is a no-brainer. But the students will ask you questions from out of left field, and it is important to know that those questions will be coming and how to prepare for them. I appreciate this advice, and it's some of it is anticipated. Engagement is important in any subject. It doesn't matter if it's social studies or anything else. If the students aren't interested, they're not going to understand, or they're not going to want to learn it either. But I think relating with the students, finding out what makes them tick, and then tying these lessons in with those things that you know they're interested in will be the best way to go about doing that. And obviously, as she said, a no-brainer, knowing your content. But I'm also not afraid to tell the students, well, geez, I don't know that, but I know where we can find it, because I think that's a great teachable moment in how to research and what a reliable source is and what is not a reliable source, and how can you tell if a source is reliable, things like that. So I would actually welcome the teaching moments of being asked questions that I don't readily know the answers for. So the reasons I asked these 5 questions, to put it very simply, is because they were the questions I was most curious about. I'm always looking for advice from teachers, so the advice question was the first question I picked. I understand that she's been doing what she's been doing longer than I have, and I'm always happy to listen to feedback from other teachers. Networking is what's really going to get all of us through as successful teachers. And I like to anticipate any kind of challenges. I'm just curious and what she enjoys and why she thinks it's fun. Just things that would push me to want to be the best social studies teacher I can be. And that's why I asked these 5 questions. And her answers matter because she's there. I see she's an effective teacher in so many different ways, including in social studies. I see how her students listen to her and they're engaged and they respect her. So that's why her answers matter. She knows what she's doing. And what can I take away from the questions and responses? Well, there's some good information here. Some of it were, things that I could have written myself. Other things were a little more interesting. How to, accommodate for limited time periods to teach in. How some of the resources that she provided. And just basically knowing that there are people out there you can ask questions of. That's what this is all about. It's not about my pride. It's not about, it's not just about making lessons fun. It's about providing the best education you can for the kids in your classroom. And sometimes that means asking for help, and that's okay.